I'm Adrienne Pedersen. Today on Upfront, a Republican lawmaker says 5 members of the Wisconsin Elections Commission should resign.
I'm hoping my fellow citizens see through this and see it's a major power grab.
Democratic Commissioner Mark Thompson responds to that and other controversies next. Plus, COVID surging in Wisconsin again and ICU beds filling up. Health Services Secretary Karen Timberlake on how the federal government can help. Then the biggest problem in the state according to business leaders and what to do about it.
Taking on the issues important to Wisconsin. This is Upfront with your host, Adrienne Pedersen.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. Legislative Republicans are again signaling their dissatisfaction with the Wisconsin Elections Commission, an agency they created. New Berlin Republican Joe Sanfilippo is asking other lawmakers to sign on to a resolution calling for the resignations of 5 of 6 WEC commissioners, the agency administrator and her deputy. The resolution also calls for referrals as necessary to district attorneys for filing of criminal charges. The WEC is the subject of audits and investigations of the 2020 election, launched after former President Trump made baseless claims of widespread voter fraud in battleground states. We're talking more about this now with Mark Thompson, a Democrat serving as commissioner. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
I just want to get your thoughts, first of all. They're asking you to resign. Are you thinking about it?
Not for a minute. You know, I had the privilege of being the first chair to the commission. So I've been on the commission since 2016, when the Republican Party created this commission. We ran the 2016 elections the same way we ran the 2020 elections. Different people won, different people lost. What is unique about this moment in time is that there are a small group of Republicans, Sanfilippo, one of them, that are actually trying to grab control of the infrastructure of who's going to be, overseeing, supervising the 2022 elections. You know, they've asked for Dean Knutson and Marge Bosselman and the 3 Democrats that, that there's somehow a legitimate charge against us, that we did something. And I just want to remind everybody what we did in 2020, March 2020, right? We got hit with the pandemic. We had an election in a few weeks. We had to have old people in nursing homes that were virtually locked down be able to vote. And we used our discretion to make sure that those people got their ballots and got them in time to return them so they're counted.
Well, let me ask you this then. Coming up with the midterms, can you assure that there will be special voting deputies in nursing homes, regardless of where the pandemic is?
Currently, right now, the statutes say that you have to have special voting deputies. There are no restrictions on nursing homes. Absent a change in the ground, special voting deputies it's the law, and that's the process. I mean, that's not even a question.
You're an attorney. How likely do you think it is that their criminal charges will come to fruition and you'll be charged with something?
Unfortunately, and that's why I really much appreciate being here, I never thought we'd get to a place in our country where people that would make decisions in front of the public meetings, allow old people to vote, right? I mean, they have a constitutional right to vote. We let them vote. And now that there are some Republicans that are willing to put their fellow Republicans in prison for letting old people to vote. Now, this is, in my mind, wake-up time for my fellow citizens. We have a small group of people that are acting, just in my mind, unlawfully. To allege that...
So who do you think is acting unlawfully?
I think anybody that is making a claim that anyone on the Election Commission committed a crime for letting old people vote, I mean, that's just outrageous. It's not, I mean, there's no legal basis for it, right? I mean, people may disagree with what administrative step we took, but we had to act. And when you Look, Dean Knudsen helped create this agency. Marge Bosselman is a wonderful woman, decent woman, as is everybody else, right? But I'm just saying, there's a small group of Republicans that are willing to make outrageous claims just to get us to resign and get Megan Wolf to resign so they control the infrastructure of who is going to be running the 2022 elections.
Well, Speaker Voss had told me one of the problems he had with not having special voting deputies in nursing homes was that he had heard other people were going in and out of there, whether you have deliveries, maintenance people, things like that. And he said, why couldn't you just have someone to oversee voting?
But Speaker Voss knows exactly why. Okay? There were certain people that were allowed in under specific essential persons. Everybody else was locked out. There was no room for special voting deputies to get in. Now, we contacted the legislature. What are we going to do? He runs this place. He runs this town, Madison, right? He could, if he was concerned, he could have done something. He didn't have one complaint about people in nursing homes voting for him, right? Absentee ballot. He didn't say anything in 2020. He didn't say anything until the sheriff in Racine said something.
And in talking about that investigation in Racine, the district attorney will decide whether to bring charges. Have you talked with her?
No, I have not had any discussions with the district attorney. My theory, I'm sure the district attorney is being pressured, yeah, right? Somebody is trying to get to her to do something.
Why do you say that?
Anybody that disagrees with Speaker Voss is going to hear from it. Now, that's Speaker Voss's neighborhood.
Are you concerned then that she'll decide to charge you?
Look, I have full respect for her. I don't think she will, but I think she's getting pressure to do it. And is there an outside chance? Absolutely. Look, I never thought anybody would say that Dean Knudsen should go to jail, right, for letting old people vote. We have a sheriff that said it. I know that there's a small group of Republicans that have crossed the line and will do anything. So,
looking back, with all these investigations, we had the Legislative Audit Bureau who raised suggestions, changes. Is there anything you look back on in the election and you say, okay, we should have done that differently?
Well, you know, look, we've been through how many lawsuits? Everybody said the elections were fair. They were accurate. They've been counted and recounted. That the Audit Bureau said the election was fair. People have different criticisms of, you know, should we do A, B, or C? Bottom line is the authority to make policy on elections is with the legislature and the governor. Okay.
So there's nothing you plan to do differently going forward?
Well, you know, we had an 11-hour meeting in response to the Audit Bureau. We addressed 30 recommendations, and we responded to all 30 recommendations. We've initiated some rule changes that, whether I thought they were necessary or not, they made the recommendation. We said in good faith, we'll go ahead and do it. So, you know, we are responding. But, you know, the bottom line, and people have to look at this, some of these critiques are about having the Elections Commission do something that certain Republicans couldn't get passed into law with the governor.
Okay. Well, Mark Thompson, we appreciate you being with us.
Thank you so much.
I also asked Thompson if he's spoken with former Justice Mike Gableman, who is leading an election investigation for Assembly Speaker Robin Voss. You can see that in the entire interview on our website. Just check out the Upfront section of WISN.com. Later on Upfront, an outlook for Wisconsin's economy for the next decade and a half. But first, hospital ICUs filling up with COVID patients again. Wisconsin's health secretary on the call for federal workers to help.